अस्सलाम वालेकुम रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू। अशहदु अल्ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह वहदहू ला शरीका लहू व अशहदु अन्ना मुहम्मदन अब्दुहू व रसूलुहू। अम्मा बअदु फ़अऊज़ु बिल्लाहि मिनश शैतानिर रजीम। बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। अलिफ लाम मीम। ज़ालिकल किताबु ला रैब फीह हुदल लिल मुत्तक़ीन अल्लज़ीना युमिनूना बिल गैबि व युकीमूना अस्सलाता व मिम्मा रज़क़नाहुम युनफ़िक़ून। In the name of Allah, the gracious, the merciful. Alif Lam Mim, which means I am Allah, all-knowing. This is a perfect book, and there is no doubt in it. It is a guidance for the righteous, who believe in the unseen and observe prayer and spend out of what we have provided for them. So far, we have covered 12 roots that are mentioned in these first 4 verses of Surah Al-Baqarah. We looked at these 12 roots in depth, in detail. We looked at how different words, or what different words are formed from these roots. We looked at the dictionaries, the Arabic dictionaries, what the Arabic dictionaries say about these roots. So far, we have covered 12 of these roots in our previous lectures. But what I wanted to do for tonight's Quran class is that before we go any further, I actually wanted to see whatever we have studied, if we have been able to digest it, if we've been able to absorb it, to retain some of the information which was shared here. So for tonight's class, there are 3 things on tonight's agenda. Number 1, I want to do a recap of what we have studied, and then inshallah ta'ala I'll have a mini video to share with you. This video is of a convert, not a new convert. This person has been an MD for some time now. The video which I'm going to show you is, I believe, about 3 or 4 years old. And the individual in that video tells that he had accepted Islam Ahmadiyya 6 years before that point. So by now I think the individual whom you're going to see in that video has been an Ahmadi Muslim for roughly 8-9 years. That video is about how a Canadian, a Caucasian Canadian person by the name of Adam, came to accept Islam and Ahmadiyya. So I wanted to share that with you, and then maybe perhaps drive the discussion from there, and then open up the floor for any Q&A, any questions that you may have, so that I can try to answer whatever questions that you may have for me tonight. मैंने ये बात बयान की है कि हमने अभी तक जितने हमारे कुरान क्लास के लेक्चर्स हुए हैं, कुल 7 लेक्चर्स हुए हैं। इन 7 लेक्चर्स में हमने सूरह अल-बकरा की पहली 4 आयत कवर की हैं। इन 4 आयत में कुल वैसे तो 13 मादे आते हैं, लेकिन हमने अभी तक सिर्फ 12 मादे कवर किए हैं। आज मैं मज़ीद आगे बढ़ाने के बजाय आपको एक रीकैप कराना चाहता था, आपके ज़हन में मुस्तहज़र हो जाए कि हमने पिछले 6-7 लेक्चर्स में क्या क्या कवर किया है। फिर ये भी मैं देखना चाहता था कि जो इन्फॉर्मेशन दी जा रही है वो लोग रिटेन भी कर रहे हैं कि नहीं कर रहे। उसके बाद इंशाल्लाह ताला एक छोटी सी वीडियो क्लिप आपको दिखाऊंगा जिसमें कनाडा में एक दोस्त हैं जिनका नाम है एडम अलेक्जेंडर। उन्होंने चंद साल पहले, कोई 8-9 साल हो गए अब तो, उन्होंने बैत की थी, और उनकी बैत की वजह क्या थी, ये छोटी सी वीडियो वो बात बताती है, और उसका हमारी क्लास से बड़ा लेना देना, इसलिए वो वीडियो मैंने इस बारे में सोचा था कि वो आप सबके साथ, दोस्त साहब आपके साथ, या वो जो ऑनलाइन ब्रॉडकास्ट को देख रहे होंगे या बाद में देखेंगे, वो लोग भी इससे इस्तेफादा हासिल कर सकें। और फिर इंशाअल्लाह ताला आखिर में हमारे पास इतना टाइम होगा कि अगर किसी ने कोई भी सवाल करना हो तो वो आराम से वो सवाल वगैरह वो कर सकते हैं। जल्दी जल्दी आपको मैं एक रिकैप करा देता हूँ। ये 4 आयात जो सूरह अल-बकरा की पहली 4 आयात हैं, ये शुरू होती हैं बिस्मिल्लाह से। The first 4 verses of Surah Al-Baqarah start off from Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And the very first root that we studied was of the word Bism. The word is Ism and the root was Sin, Mim, Wow. Then the second root, which this root meant, this root fundamentally has the meaning of something which is lofty and high. Basically something that stands out. And the reason your name comes from this root is because it makes you stand out among the crowd. When you are in the crowd and somebody says, who is Bilal? So we all know that there is one Bilal sitting in this masjid at this moment. So this name Bilal makes you stand out. That's why in Arabic, Ism is that identity which makes you stand out. From the same root comes the word Sama, which means heaven, again something which is lofty. Samawat is its plural. Tasmiya is the action of naming, so on and so forth. Then the second word that we had looked at was Allah, but we know that Allah does not come from any root. It's called Asma-i Jumud. Such names that come from no other root and they exist on their own. Then the next word was Rahman, and then comes Rahim. Both of them share the same root, which is Re, He and Mim. And we studied that the fundamental meaning of this root is to have the concept of mercy in it. Then we studied the next word. The next root was of Kitab. Kitab comes from the root of Kataba, or Kaf, Te and Be, which means literally to take 2 parchments of leather and to sew them together. So anything that you write, basically what you're doing is you're taking words and you're sewing them together so that you end up with a sentence or a phrase that makes sense. And a collection of those phrases is called Kitab. Maktub is a letter which is written. Again, coming from the same root, stemming from the same root. I remember I gave the example of Maktubat Amen. Letters written by the promised Messiah to different individuals that have been compiled in 3 volumes. Then the next root we looked at was of the word Raib, La Raiba Fi. We studied the root of Raib, which was Ra, Ya and Ba. Then we looked at the word Huda, which means guidance. Then we looked at the root word for Muttaqin. We looked at the root for that. Then we also studied the root for Yominun. Then we studied the root for the word Bil Ghaib. We also studied the root word for Yuqimuna, which comes from Ikama. Then we studied the root of Salat. I gave you what the promised Messiah ﷺ, Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad of Qadian, the founder of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, has mentioned in regards to what the word Salat means and where it comes from. And then last but not least, we studied the root of Razaqna. Razaqnahum, the root for this was Rizq, or Ray, Zay and Qaf. So these were the roots that we had covered. Those of you who have been taking notes, you have a higher probability of retaining this information. If you have not been able to take notes, use my PowerPoints, which are available on the Mubarak Mosque .us website under the tab for Holy Quran class. That being said, I now want to show all of you the video which I have shared for this class for tonight. If that video could be played. Would we be able to hear the audio as well?
Yes.
Okay.
My name is Adam Alexander. I accepted Islam 6 years ago.
You know, some people, they go on a spiritual journey. There's no doubt about that. People travel the world far and wide to find themselves. We're always looking for themselves, searching for themselves. I have to admit that I was in the same category as well. There was something that I was looking for, but I didn't exactly know what it was. When I had some friends who introduced me to Islam and I had read the Quran and I finished the Quran, it was when I finished it that I realized what it is that I didn't have. I didn't have that spirituality, I didn't have that understanding of a God or a creator. But there was something that I had been seeking my whole life and I was living without that. And when I read the Quran, I actually found what it is I was looking for. It wasn't me all along that I was searching for, it was my creator I was searching for. The thing that people don't understand about Islam is that the biggest things you have to do in Islam is help each other. There are two things a Muslim has to do. He has to help mankind and he has to pray to God. But God has put helping mankind ahead of him. So when I was out in Alberta and I had accepted Islam, the first thing that I thought was I had found what I had been looking for. The second thing I thought is, what's my family going to think about this? It was strange for my family. They didn't have a Muslim friend, Muslim co-worker. We didn't have Muslim neighbors. I was the first Muslim my family knew. But this was a good impression for them because they knew what I was like before Islam. And they know now what I'm like after Islam. By adopting those teachings of the Holy Quran, my mom has started to change. I've read the Quran in English many times. I've never seen anything in the Quran that incites to violence. In fact, I've seen teachings of great compassion, and I think a lot of these misconceptions would go away if people actually picked up the Quran and read it. The Quran is very, very descriptive of the Creator, and it emphasizes the importance of recognizing the Creator.
So, in this very short video, what you saw is a young man and his journey to Islam and Medina by reading Holy Quran. Holy Quran, the way it has been explained by Holy Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, the way Quran itself claims, and then the way promised Messiah Islam and Khulafai Ahmadiyyat, the way they have explained the teachings of the Holy Quran, they are so marvelous that it has the potential, and it truly has indeed served the purpose of transpiring people's lives. A man from the outside, he comes, he reads Quran and is so inspired by it. He falls in love with it and its creator, Allah the Almighty. He found that true love that he had in his heart for his creator by accepting Islam. The man changed his life, the man changed everything about himself. And then there are those individuals who read Quran, or sometimes don't even read Quran because they're so busy in their day-to-day life that they literally don't find either the necessity to read the Quran or the necessity to find time to study what's actually in it. Some people say that, maybe I don't need to read it. Maybe I don't need to know what's in it. I'm a good person. I try to offer my prayers as often as I can, whenever I can. So what's the need? Why do I have to read the Quran? Is it enough that you're not stealing, that you're not committing the big sins? Is it enough? These are some of the real questions that we have to ask ourselves. If it is one of us who thinks like this, if our thinking is like that, then we really, really need to think, what role does Quran play in my life? Does it even play any role in my life or not? The purpose of this class is not to make you read the Quran. That is something that has to come from within you. It has to come from within your heart. We have these classes every Wednesday night. Every Wednesday night we will be having these classes, inshallah. The question is, I can only give you what's in the Quran. I cannot force your heart to fall in love with it. I cannot force you, nobody can force you to start reading it, or to understand what's in it, or to act on it. All we can do is to just tell you what's in it. You know, they say that you can take the horse to the well, but you can't force the horse to drink from it. The horse has to do it himself. It's pretty much true for all of us. We have the Quran in our homes. How many of us do actually pick it up every day and then read it? You know, there are so many blessings in the Holy Quran. So many blessings. Every kind of guidance is mentioned in the Holy Quran. Every kind of problem that one may be experiencing. Some individuals might have certain problems, you know, that has to do with, let's say, finance. That your finances are not on point. Or some students whose grades are not on point. Or you might be having some difficulty at work. Or you might be having some stress-related issues. Or you might be having some, God forbid, but, you know, drug-related issues. Or something like that. And in your heart of hearts, you know that, you know, that's not what you're supposed to be doing. Guess what? All the answers are in the Holy Quran. I had the honor and privilege of meeting our beloved Imam, Hazrat Sayyidina Khalifatul Masih, Ayyadahullah Ta'ala bin Nasr al-Aziz, just a few weeks ago. Not even a month ago, just a few weeks ago. And in that meeting, Hazur Anwar Ayyadahullah told me multiple times, I had taken with me about 23 questions that I wanted to ask Hazur Anwar and get guidance. Whatever the number of questions I was able to actually ask in person. In that candid meeting that I had, Hazur Anwar mentioned this point at least 2-3 times. Read the Quran, the answers are all there in the Holy Quran. And then he went on to prove his points from the Holy Quran. And believe you me when I say this, that in my mind I thought that these are some real difficult questions. I was not able to solve them. And so easily Hazur just pointed me towards a certain verse of the Holy Quran where the solution is mentioned for that problem, for this problem, for that issue, for that issue. All those things are mentioned in the Holy Quran. All we literally need to do is just pick up our Quran that we already have in our rooms, in our homes, and start reading them. Quran is a book. It will talk to you. All you need to do is just, with a clean, pure heart, just sit down. Sit down and start reading it. Ask Allah for guidance. Whatever your problems are in life, whatever troubles you may have, whatever they are, just know 2 things. Number 1, it's never too late to turn back. It's never too late to repent and come back to God. Number 1. Number 2, doesn't matter how far you've gone into doing something. If you want to return, know that Allah is most forgiving. The fact that you might be thinking along those lines is a sign of God's mercy right there and then. That He wants you to take that U-turn. He wants you to come back to His lap. All you need to do is just make that first step. Allah says in a Hadith Qudsi that a servant of His takes 1 step, Allah takes 2 steps. That the servant of God walks towards Him, but Allah runs towards him. It is as if Allah is waiting for us to just make that initial step, and then everything else becomes easy. I personally am aware of so many individuals who were lost. They didn't know what they were doing in life. They were wasting away their youth, their energy, and doing things that they shouldn't be doing. But then they had a change of heart for whatever reason. For one person, that reason was coming to masjid. And nobody, telling him that, oh wow, we're seeing you for the first time in 2 years. Goodness gracious, what a miracle. Nobody made those sarcastic comments to him. As a matter of fact, when he came, people welcomed him with open arms. This itself became the reason for him to take the U-turn. For one individual, reading Holy Quran out of the blue for that individual became the source of inspiration in his life that he needed. And he changed his life around. Change is that easy. You just have to make that initial, resolve within yourself that it is something that you want to do. And then you will see positive change happening in your life. Now, we have few minutes before the clock strikes 8 p.m. So if anybody would like to ask any question on any topic, it doesn't have to be on the 4 verses of Surah Al-Baqarah that we have covered thus far. You can ask any question on any topic related to anything. Yes, sir.
We already covered, as per you, that we covered 4 ayat surah already. Today, how many surah we have to cover?
So we have a syllabus. I believe it is already shared on the Jamaat website. What we are doing is we are covering those verses from those surahs that Hazur Anwar Aidahullah Ta'ala bin Nasr al-Aziz recites daily in his daily prayers. They have been compiled as a syllabus and it's available on mubarakmosque.us. There are not that many, but it's going to include the last 10 chapters of the Holy Quran, along with, I believe, the first 17 verses of Surah Al-Baqarah. Then we have that portion from Surah Al-Baqarah where the Ayat al-Kursi, and then I believe the 2 verses right after that. And then we will also have the last 3 verses of Surah Al-Baqarah. Similarly, there are other portions from the Holy Quran. It's not that much, but when you study them in depth, inshallah ta'ala, it is something which is going to take us next 3 years to complete in its entirety, inshallah ta'ala.
That's okay, but can we start today from 5th surah Al-Baqarah?
You mean 5th verse of Surah Al-Baqarah? Well, for tonight, I mentioned that I'm going to give a recap. So what I have done tonight is I've given a summary of what we have covered so far. Inshallah ta'ala, in the next class, we are going to start from wherever we have left off.
Okay, from 5th.
We still have one root left in the 4th verse, which is of وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. So for the word yunfikun, inshallah ta'ala, we will continue from there. Any other question? Yes, sir.
For the akika of a son, the guidance is to sacrifice 2 animals, and for daughters 1 animal.
Right.
So, considering the context, historical context, where daughters were not welcomed back before Islam, what is the significance of this particular guidance, where for son you have to slaughter 2 animals, and for daughter you have to slaughter 1?
Okay. I can give you multiple answers for this. One answer that I would like to share first. Let me first and foremost mention what your question is, so that those individuals who might not have heard your question, they can also hear your question as well. The question is, why is it that for a boy, 2 animals are slaughtered at the time of Aqiqah, whereas for the girl, only 1 animal is slaughtered? In other words, does it not, paint a picture that Islam is somehow being biased, that boys are getting double share and the girl is only getting a single share? The same question was asked in front of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Rabi, rahimahullah ta'ala, Hazrat Mirza Tahir Masahib. And Hazuri Anwar responded by saying that, look, a boy has double the responsibility in financial terms than that of a girl. Because in Islamic culture, in the Islamic sense, it is the boy's responsibility, it is the man's responsibility to take care of his parents, number 1, and also his own family unit, which includes his wife and his children. Financially speaking, it is not the responsibility of the wife to support the family, but it is the financial responsibility of the husband to take care of not just the wife and the children, but also his parents as well. That being said, because the boy has double the responsibility, hence whoever has double the responsibility has twice the chances to make mistakes. Usually animals are slaughtered, to ward off, we say that sadke ke taur pe, ya ye ke, we say that nothing bad comes, So animals are slaughtered usually at that time, or they are slaughtered to give thanks to God. At the time of Aqiqah, both of these notions are combined. Figuratively, symbolically, we are suggesting that when we slaughter 2 animals for the boy, we're letting everyone know that this boy technically has 2 responsibilities. One, inshallah ta'ala, when he grows up and has his own family, towards that, and then also towards his elderly parents. And then the second thing that we're trying to suggest is that the boy, this boy, when he will grow up, he has a double chance of making mistakes. And hence he needs extra protection. So for that, we're slaughtering 2 animals. Now compare that with a girl. A girl does not have, according to the Islamic teachings, the Islamic culture and Islamic society, a girl does not have to bear any kind of financial responsibility for her family whatsoever. She is not responsible to provide for her husband. She is not responsible to provide for her children. As a matter of fact, in Islam, whatever the husband makes, wife has a right over it. But whatever the wife makes, husband has 0 right over it. And as such, whatever she makes, it belongs to her and her alone. So even in that sense, Islam has put a single responsibility on the woman or on the girl, whereas Islam at the same time is putting double the responsibility on the boy or the man of the house. Henceforth, at the time of Aqiqah, which in itself is a symbolic gesture, at that time this is shown or displayed by slaughtering 2 animals for the boy and then 1 animal for the girl. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think same with that. What is the significance of having this haircut or clip at Aqiqah also, but also at Umrah or Hajj, after completing all your the obligations, then you have to complete this part.
Your question is that what is the significance of shaving one's head at the time of Aqiqah, and also the same thing that is done at the time of Umrah and Hajj, which is the pilgrimage to the Holy Mosque in Mecca. Same question has been asked in front of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Rabi rahimahullah ta'ala, and Hazur Anwar has mentioned that the reason we shave our heads or cut our hair at the time of Umrah and Hajj is similar to why we shave the head of a baby at the time the baby is born, at the time of the Aqiqah. Because it marks 2 things. Number 1, the start of a new life. Clean slate. And number 2, it is a sign of dedication to God. It is a sign of dedication to a higher purpose. In this case, the purpose is that we're going to serve Allah and His creation. Hukukullah and hukukul ibad. So when you shave your head at the time of Umrah and Hajj, you're literally dedicating yourself to causes greater than yourself. Number 1, hukukullah, rendering the rights of God. And number 2, hukukul ibad, which is rendering the rights of God's creation. So your other question is, what is the wisdom behind? Another wisdom that I could give you as to why, scientifically speaking, a baby's head is shaven at the time of Aqiqah. I have heard from multiple doctors that I have had the privilege of having discussion with. They say that when the child is born, the hair that the child is born with is not pure. It has several kinds of bacteria, and it is better to shave the head of the baby soon after the birth. So you can see a scientific wisdom in this Islamic commandment as well, as to why we as Muslims, we shave that hair with which the child is born with. So these are some of the reasons why we shave the head of a baby when the baby is born, or why we shave our heads at the time of Hajj and Umrah. I can take one more question. Anybody on the Lajna side, if you have a question, please go ahead. Anybody on the men's side? Okay, Jazakallah. And inshallah ta'ala we'll continue our class next Wednesday. Please take a note. Exactly 7:30 we will begin, inshallah ta'ala. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.